practiced law for over a decade as a contract attorney. She still maintains her law license, and Professor Siminoff holds a JD from Syracuse University, College of Law, and a PhD in American History from New York University. She's a published author and specializes in early American history. She has served on her PMB, FSA, and academic senate, among many other college committees. She is currently the secretary of the NCCFT and is asking for your support to serve you as the NCCFT's president. Faren has also asked me to state that she is not running as part of a slate. So I would like to introduce to you Faren Siminoff.
So thank you, Miguel, and everybody that asked for the open forum, and thank you, Jill, for doing this. All right, I'm just going to cut to the chase. You all want to know why I'm doing this. I know this. You want to know why am I running now? So let me really address that. I'm really running now because I genuinely believe that we're in a crossroads at this college, because the challenges that we face must be proactively confronted now. Tax on public education, a worsening financial climate, and sometimes a less than friendly administration. We need a union that's, I believe, really ahead of the curve, one that meets challenges and this changing environment proactively. The fact of the matter is that I believe our union has become complacent. It fails to keep its members fully informed. It fails to actively and productively enlist or engage our faculty, our very talented and diverse faculty, to assist, and it's not politically effective. And I think that our contract negotiations are a perfect example of these problems. Now, I am a member of the negotiating team. I obviously am not going to talk to you about the details of the contract package, but what I will discuss with you is the process. Because our current chief negotiator has really failed to recognize that we're actually living in a very different contract negotiating environment. So let me explain what I mean to this. There are really two types of contract environments, two basic types. One in which there are two parties who are amenable to a contract. I go to you, you come to me, we sit down, we want to have a contract. This is the contract environment that we've lived in. There was never any doubt but that we were going to have a contract. Yes, sometimes we went to mediation, and I will tell you why people do that, even when they know they're going to have a contract. Because nobody wants to be fully responsible for the contract. So when you bring in a mediator at the very last minute at times, even though the two parties know, yes, they are going to get to a contract, attorneys call yes, to a contract, it's awfully nice when you're not going to give your principles for the union, you are our principals, and for John Gross and his team, his principles are obviously the Board of Trustees. When you're going to be telling them you're not getting everything you want, when you're not making everybody totally happy, it's awfully nice to have a mediator that you can say to, you know what, the mediator thought this was a good idea. The mediator thought that was a good idea. This is what attorneys and negotiations happen all the time. But in that first environment that we always operated in under Sean Finelli, there was no doubt but we would eventually have a contract. What we were really doing was just simply ironing out details. Now, why is it different today? Because we are in that second negotiating environment. And here we're in a negotiating environment where one party, and that's us, wants a contract. The other party, and that's the college, actually doesn't want to have a contract. They're content to let us work under an expired contract. It doesn't make any difference at all to them. And what I'm saying is that the union should have recognized this to begin with. And why should they have recognized it? Because we spent 18 months negotiating for an extension. They spent 18 months doing it. When I began working as a secretary in the fall of 2011, I said, what are you doing? And they said, oh, we're negotiating an extension. Now, I'm going to tell you it's not a bad idea. It was a good idea. But you don't do it for 18 months. Contract extensions are like this quick and dirty agreement, I give you X dollars in savings or whatever it is that you might particularly want, you extend my contract for the amount of time that I think that I want. That's it. You don't reopen the contract. The longer you talk with people, the more you're probably going to have to open up that contract. But not only that, once they understood that, and trust me, I did tell them to stop, they kept going on and on and on. And it lasted for 18 solid months. What this told me, that they were even doing this for 6 months that I got in, was that they were really sending them a message. And here's the message that any skilled contract negotiator knows when somebody's doing that. They're saying to us, you're not negotiating in the environment that you used to accustomed to. This ain't Sean Finelli's college anymore, people. It's over. And that's what they were saying, but they didn't recognize that. And I'll tell you that, contrary to what's being said, I'm not the one that's inexperienced in negotiating an adversarial setting. The team that was there is inexperienced, and why should they be experienced? They're not contract attorneys, and they never had negotiated in a different environment for, what was it, how long do we have Sean Finelli? 30 years? 35 years? This is the negotiating environment they did. No matter what I said to them, I could not get them to understand that that's not it. So, the first thing a contract attorney does before they start to negotiate is you ask yourself, what is the negotiating environment that I'm negotiating in? Once you understand that, then you have to try to manipulate your environment a little. Once you understand that we are negotiating in that second very difficult environment, before we even began negotiations, we needed to begin to change the contract negotiating environment. And how do you do that? You do that for us in a wide variety of ways. It's political, because remember, our board is a political organization. They're all appointed by Republicans, by Democrats, through the county, through the state. We needed a full PR campaign. We really, really did. We had to convince the public that they like us, they want us to be stable, they want us to be happy. We needed to do all of these things, and we needed to enlist, yes, the faculty, because you are the union. I'm sorry, but the executive committee is not the union. I do not think that I am the union because I'm secretary of the union. I'm just somebody that you've elected to do a job for you. You are the union. And just the same way we pressured, we removed four trustees and a sitting president. We did it because we were united and we called on everybody's skills, and this is a very diverse and talented faculty, to help us help ourselves to change the environment we saw ourselves in. What happened with this contract is, because it went for 18 months, the union never had a chance to do this. And so they sat and they sat and they sat and didn't want to activate the crisis committee, and they didn't want to rock the boat. But what they didn't understand is they weren't on the boat they thought they were on. They thought they were on that, two-way boat, but they weren't. They were on the boat to nowhere. So basically, this is why we are where we are. Now, I want you to also understand that mediation is short-term. I don't think the union has made this very clear. The Public Employees Relationship Board gives us 3 bites at the mediation session apple. You get 3 shots at it. We're about to do the second one. We have 1 more. The mediator has told us if by some chance he actually believes we can close a deal, he'll have maybe 1 more, and that's it. It's over by the end of the semester. So this negotiating team stays in place until the end of the semester. New officers do not take office until June 1st. So if you're really worried about changing your chief negotiator, don't worry, you won't. Now, I'm hoping that this mediator, and I was listening to him, he kind of gets what the problem is. I'm hoping he's going to be able to change the environment a little. He's bringing the Board of Trustees in. So it's really going to be, we're going to have to be very fortunate this mediator, he actually seems to be pretty good, is going to be able to do this. But suppose we don't have a contract. Well, now we're entering unprecedented terrain. We are about to go into very long, protracted negotiations. It includes fact-finding, mandatory fact-finding. I know the union's gotten very upset about this. Really, I wouldn't worry about it. You know why? Because it's not binding. Mediation's not binding, no binding arbitration, no binding fact-finding. And the college has been bludgeoning us with their facts the whole time anyway. Why? They're in control of the facts. I really couldn't care less about the facts in that sense that the college presents to us, because they control them. They play with their numbers. Remember, ASTRAB told us we were supposed to be $35 million in debt right now? Well, we're not. So when they tell me we're going to be, gazillions of dollars in the hole and we're unsustainable, let's take that with a grain of salt. Why get upset about this? It rolls off my back. So we'll have this little fact-finding. They're going to tell us, oh, you see, the fact-finder found, for us. Well, hello. They always do. Why? Because management controls the facts. And please don't tell anybody, but when I was a contract lawyer, I was management. I worked for management. I know what management does. This is not foreign to me at all. So, and June 1st, we don't have a contract. We are now going to be 30 months into extension talks, negotiations, and mediation. 30 months. When we go into these protracted negotiations, and then we are actually going to have to try to change that environment. We should have been doing it before, but now we're going to have to do it. Who do you want as your chief negotiator? Do you want a skilled contract attorney who's done this before, or you want to continue down the path? This is really your choice. I mean, this is really why I'm doing this. Now, the other aspect of it is, suppose we do have a contract. And you know what? God willing we do, because I know we all want a contract. I certainly do. My question to you is, do you want to really continue down the road we're down? We're down 75 lines in just 4 years alone. Despite the fact that we got some faculty back in that PERB decision, and it was a very good decision, and I congratulate Debbie for the good job that she did on it. But think about it, even with all that, even with adding our link people to our faculty, and of course we always welcome them because they're new, and thank you for being here, we're still down 75 lines in 4 years. Let's keep going. 75 lines, 75 lines. We're going to be a shell of the faculty soon if we don't stop the hemorrhaging. We haven't had a raise in our financial assistance from the county in over 5 years, and our state funding levels around 2006 or 2007. We're the only people who have to go backwards, right, in funding. Our autonomy and shared governance are in jeopardy from SUNY. And a very detrimental performance-based funding is around the corner. We got to get ahead of all of these issues. My question to you is, do you want to wait another 3 years? We need to form effective relationships with both Democratic and Republican political officials at both the county and state levels. And we can really do this, but you got to do more than attend an occasional dinner. I've been to those big dinners. It's like, hi, unless you've been seeing these people all the time, you're not networking there unless they know you, because they're not interested in you. There's 1,000 people there. Who are you? You got to be in their faces. You have to go visit them. You have to form these connections. You know who's really good at this? Suffolk Community College. The PSC really has worked on this diligently for years. It's not overnight, but you have to be sustained and do it. And we also really actually need a partner. And we need to try to partner with the administration where we can. Now, I know that sounds like we wouldn't do that because God knows who they're going to be, right? We've got one team 1 minute, we've got another team the next minute. We got to stop worrying about this because they could be doing this forever. We have to really try to really be very creative, very proactive, and really get ahead of what's going on in this college. Remember, for those of you who were at the Academic Affairs meeting when Maria pointed to us and told us it was our fault about retention and all that kind of stuff, and you're the solution? Well, my attitude is if we're the solution, then let's be the solution. Let's propose the solutions. Let's be the ones that enact the solutions. If they don't want to do it, just like with our students, right? You have your students, you try to get them to do their homework, their reading, their assignments, they don't do it, then you think of another way of doing it. You've got to pull these people along. And just like with negotiations, we can very creatively try to work with them so they understand and make them feel that it's to their benefit too. We have to get ahead of all the challenges and obstacles. Now, we also need a massive public relations campaign to sell ourselves in this county. By the way, we've had a plan on the table for well over a year. We hired Richard Gorman to be the communications coordinator. He's very competent. He's very good. Plus, we also have marketing department, right? We have people who actually know how to do these things. That plan's been sitting on the union executive committee's desk for well over a year. No action to implement it at all. There's, for example, a NICET campaign right now for higher education. It's called Keep New York a State of Mind. Most of you have probably never heard of it. The union should be telling you about it. The union should say to you, here's what we need to do to partner up with NICET to pay them $330,000 a year. They have huge amounts of resources, but you don't ask and you don't get. You don't participate, you don't take advantage of it. And I want to know why no one's asked anybody to do anything like this.
30 seconds.
Okay, and our problems don't stop here. One last thing I want to say. We internally need to repair our own house. You know, we have 3 different bargaining units, and there's a lot of friction. A lot of people feel alienated. People feel alienated for all kinds of reasons. Minorities on this campus often feel alienated. The different members of different units feel alienated, and we really have to stop this. We've got to recognize that these divisions weaken us as a union. We have to put those divisions aside. We have to, yes, address them, as painful as it might be, and we have to pull back together as a faculty. So, I will share information with you. If I'm elected, I will keep you informed. You will see me more than you ever wanted to see anybody, ever, ever, ever. I'm very, very chatty. I answer texts, I answer emails. I have no problem with that. But what we really need to do is put our talents and ideas to work. The union leadership is not the union. You are the union. I will really work to make you feel like you're part of this union. And make no mistake, my running now is because I think our union needs to broaden its scope and energize proactively to protect its members. And my last little thought is, you know, elections are the cornerstone of our democracy. And democracy implies choice, and often with that choice is change. I'm committed to work tireless for each and every one of our members to make this union one that you can look to for strength and to keep it strong into the next decade and beyond. So thank you, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Faren. I do want to say that Debbie DeSanto could not be here today. She had a conflict with a NICET meeting that could not be rescheduled. So I'm going to move, thank you. Sorry. No problem. I'm going to move to the secretaries. Just going to say okay, Donna. All right, I'm going to introduce Donna Hope. Donna's union experience includes her training through the summer school for union women, Long Island Federation of Labor Union Leadership Training Program, and NICET Leadership Conference. In addition to her campus-wide service, she is serving as the chair of the NCCF's Crisis Committee, and her NCCFT involvement includes serving on the Tellers Committee and the Executive Board as her department's alternate representative. Donna is running for secretary.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to try to be really as brief as possible, so I planned something for you. We'll keep right on time here. So I'd like to introduce myself to you, for those of you that don't know me. My name is Donna Hope. I'm from the marketing, retailing, FBM, interior design, and fashion design department.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I am here today requesting your consideration as your candidate for Secretary of the NCCFT Executive Committee. Over the years, I've demonstrated a deep commitment to our campus and Nassau Community College in many ways. Over the last 10 years, in addition to teaching, which is our core competency, I've served on several departmental and college-wide committees. I'm currently serving on Affirmative Action. Anissa, I saw you somewhere. Hi, Anissa. Shout out to Affirmative Action. And I'm also currently the chair, my secretary, thank you very much, of Educational Resources Committee. And I've also served as the chair of, as the secretary of the Educational Resources Committee. I've had the opportunity, as Jill pointed out, to serve on, participate on several union leadership training and development programs, which I'm very proud of. And instead of going back over what they are, what are some of the things that we were taught in these trainings? Leadership skills for women was one. Strategic planning and running effective meetings. Understanding conflict, clearly important. Labor history, we have to know where we're coming from to know where we're going. Negotiating and reaching mutually acceptable resolutions for everyone. And lastly, to name a few, is how collective bargaining truly works from the inside out. Additionally, I'm currently serving as our union departmental rep, along with I'm the alternate since 2010, possibly before, but with Mary Ellen McNamara, as a member of our Tellers Committee, which I have recused myself early on. Don't worry, there's no insider trading here. And as chair of the NCC Faculty Crisis Committee since last year. The NCCFT Executive Committee is one of the mechanisms by which we guarantee, us as a unit, our college's assurance of academic freedom and integrity and shared governance and, God willing, a strong contract going forward. I believe it's our responsibility, all of us, our responsibility to affirm the dignity and worth of every individual on our campus. I will work honestly and with impartiality to ensure that all parties have an opportunity to be heard and to be treated with fairness and collegiality. My experience in departmental, college-wide, and my union activities give me a deep understanding of what needs to be done moving forward, which I'll bring to the NCCFT Executive Committee if you honor me with your vote to serve as your union secretary. If elected to the position, I will uphold all of the duties of the committee, and I will continue to work hard to serve the union and you, its members. Thank you.
The secretary is Tuaillon. She's a full-time faculty member of the biology department. She started at the college 23 years ago as a full-time TA in the biology department and moved on to a full-time teaching position 12 years ago. Christine has always been a very active member of the NCCFT union, both as a TA and the teaching faculty. She has served on the Union Fringe Benefit Committee, Health and Safety Committee, Carlino Scholarship Committee, and in all the past negotiation crisis committees. She is currently the chair of the Benefits Committee. She was for many years the biology department rep and has served as a leader in training with the union executive committee for the spring semester 2012. She has Christine is looking to serve the union in a new capacity and is running for the secretary of the union position. You want to use this?
I don't know. Hi, some of you may know me because I've been here for 24 years, and some of you may not know me because you are newer to the college. But I just wanted to tell you that I've always been very involved with the NCCFT and with the union. I've never been afraid to speak my mind. If you have attended a union committee, you know that I speak my mind. If you have attended faculty meeting, you know that if I have something to say, I will not be afraid to say it. I know very well all the current executive board members. I was actually elected to be a leader in training in 2012. By the executive board, which means that for that semester in the spring of 2012, I sat at every single meeting of the NEX and NCCFT executive board committee, so I really have a good idea of what it is to be a union officer. I will represent everyone in this room, whether you're a professional faculty, an English faculty, a science faculty, an art faculty.
I was a TA when I started at the college. I was a TA for 12 years. I was very active as a TA activist to try to, have our need heard, and some of our need have been heard, not all of the need of the TA. I was also, I've been a faculty member, as a teaching faculty member since 2002. I'm currently an associate professor in the biology department. I teach biology, but I have taught for one semester anthropology in sociology/anthropology social work department, because I also have a graduate degree in anthropology. So I have a graduate degree in both the social science and the natural science. So I have a good idea of what the faculty need for all of you, and I will be advocate for everyone.
But I can't take any requests right now.
Yeah, for all those things that
Okay, so I'm now going to introduce Jason Gorman, who has been teaching at NCC for over 16 years and is currently at the rank of professor. He recently received the NCCFT Community Action Recognition for exceptional service for his numerous efforts. He has served as the chair of the NCCFT Sabbatical Committee and has also served on the Promotion and Tenure Committee. He has been a member of the NCCFT PAC Committee and Faculty Crisis Committees. He is well organized, mathematically inclined, and recently presented a comprehensive financial analysis of multi-million-dollar losses in potential revenues caused by class cancellations during ASTRAB's administration. He has been at the forefront of many of the efforts of the NCCFT supporting our union. I introduce Jason Gorman.
Thank you very, very much. It's really, really good to see you. Why am I running might be one of your questions. I believe in community colleges. I went to a community college myself. I think they're a great way to discover what you want to do in life. I care about teaching, and I don't want to see what we teach, how we teach change. And I think in order for that to happen, we need a stronger union. We need one that's very proactive, and so that you are educated on what our union is doing, we need one that is transparent. In terms of this position of treasurer, I think that I'm very qualified. While I don't have an accounting degree, the position is not for an accounting position. It's for treasurer. The treasurer needs to have the planning activities of a budget officer. It needs to have the review and auditing capabilities of an auditor. And I'd like to remind everyone, in case you didn't know, that I was a member of the auditing team recently for the NCCFT. In fact, I was actually chosen by that group to man the computer of each treaty accounting software, and I've used that before. In addition, it also has to handle disbursement of funds. I have had a business. I have done these things. I'd also like to remind the faculty that in the past, other people have done these things that came from just different departments. For example, prior to the current treasurer, we had Elizabeth Wood from sociology. So at least by her department, I don't know that she has an accounting degree. Prior to that, it was Frank Frisenda from engineering. I'm sure he's mathematically inclined, as I am. I can handle this job. But more importantly, I think you want more from the position. I think you want proactive and transparency out of a union. And just to show you where my head's at, one of the things that I've done today is I've compiled some of the emails that I've sent over the years, some of the things that I've done. I hope that you will go to jasongormanart.wordpress.com, where I've listed them out. But I'm going to leave these out for everybody to see, some emails that I've sent to the union. For example, when the short contract was challenged and President Astrap said all temporary people are out of here. I thought that was an infringement of our contract, and I pushed for us to do something about that. You can see documentation on that. You'll also see the 16-page analysis of the tremendous potential losses caused by Astrap, which I calculated based on enrollment, that we were in an enrollment growth period. But just to cut it short, I'm going to leave these out. You can actually start looking at them right now. I'm fine with that. I hope you know my name. I hope you know some of the things I've done. I want to serve you. I want the union to be more involved with things. And the last thing I'd like to say is that I have a background in marketing and advertising and publishing. I also am very adept in social media. And I think I will be a great asset to the NCCFT leadership because I think I will be able to help mobilize our faculty. And I think I've done a lot of that already. So I hope you'll vote for me, and thanks very much.
Thank you, Jason. Karen Falconetti, who's currently the NCCFT treasurer, is in another meeting, so she should be coming shortly. So we'll move on to Lynn Rozzi Casey. Rozzi Casey has been a technical assistant in the art department since 1979 and is currently the director of the Firehouse Plaza Art Gallery. Lynn is a candidate for the position of VP non-classroom professional faculty.
So I'm running because I feel like we need a change. I feel like we're stuck. And more importantly than that, as a technical assistant, non-teaching faculty, I feel like we're being marginalized. It's rare that we get to have some input. I want a voice. I want us all to have a voice, and we need to work together. But more importantly than that, non-classroom professional faculty need to be heard. Our needs are different, although they're meshing with classroom faculty, and I don't feel like that's happening. I feel as if there's no one to speak for us, and I want to do that. I know that we need to work together, and certainly I will do that. And I think that at this point in time, we need to change our tactics, as it's been said before. We need some creative thoughts, and I'm from the art department. Who better to do that? We have to know how to think outside of the box and solve problems in a creative manner. So I think that I bring that to the table. I've been here a very long time. I'd like to think that I grew up here rather than grow old here. But I've seen a lot of changes, and I've seen things that work and things that don't work, and I think I can bring that to the table, and hopefully you'll support me and you agree with me. I know that when I speak with non-teaching faculty, the common denominator is, what about us? And I'm tired of having to find the union. Where are they? Why don't they return calls? Why don't they speak to us? We need a dialogue, and that's how we get strong. There's nothing wrong with a choice. We need to have choices. And so I hope that you'll support me, and I need your vote. Very important. Thank you.
Jim Hoyt is also running for that same position. Okay, but he's not here. So now we're going to open it up to questions. Like I had said before, I would like to keep the questions brief. It doesn't mean that the answers are going to be brief, but the questions are brief. It allows the candidates, each of them, to have an opportunity to respond, and at the same time, they will ask you questions if they need anything further from you to understand your questions. So,
my name is Barry Fruchter, and I'm very shy, but I want to ask the following question. I'm really worried. I want to ask candidate Faren Siminoff if she could speak for a moment to her experience with the Freedom of Information law. And just in case you need a trigger, WTF? What were you doing with those Freedom of Information law requests way back when? And what impact does it have on the presidency of the NCCFT?
I know that a lot of you know me as the queen of the foils. And yes, we've done a lot of foils. And here's one of, the reasons for the season of my discontent is that, when you're part of the NCCFT Executive Committee, it's a committee. And they have to decide as a committee what to do with things. I received a lot of very good information, which has been sitting there. I made narratives. I gave them to people to read. I said, you don't want to sit and read them all? I'll digest them. You know what I'm talking about, Bob, as a lawyer. I will digest them for you. I'm not eating them. But I will review it, and I will write up a narrative with exhibits and tabs and everything. They're sitting there. There's a lot of information that was very, very good, but information, unfortunately, unless it's used in a timely fashion, becomes stale. For example, with the contracts, all that contract stuff that we have, a lot of information in there about a huge amount of waste. Furniture, just sitting there. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars of furniture. I don't know who's sitting on it, but it's just, it's like in a warehouse somewhere. There's lots of things. I mean, I could talk to you for hours about the foils. There is all kinds of foils about many, many things. One of the only things they ever let me release was, I don't know if any of you remember when I published something in Newsday, it was like, look who's overpaid now. That was from the foils. That was it. That was all I have ever been authorized to release. If it were my choice, it would have been out there. I mean, I wasn't doing these foils just for my health. So that's one of the reasons that I'm running. I mean, we did this. We have this information. It could have been used. It was very valuable. And again, this is how you put pressure on the administration, on the board, and on the politicians who've appointed these people. Use it strategically. We didn't have to use absolutely every single thing that was there because, nobody wants to read books about things like that. But we could have used them very strategically. I had lots of ideas how to use them. I spent a lot of time crafting that, the how to do it, the letter, the narrative, the documents. So that's what happened with the foils. If you think you're frustrated about it, you can only imagine how frustrated I've been.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalia DeCuba from the Link Department. There are a bunch of us here. And we're not really that new. We started in September 2007. None of us are yet making what a starting instructor makes here. I'm not sure if you're all aware of that. Yes, we no longer contribute to the health plan, but whatever I saved on that, I'm paying in union dues. We have things like fewer sick days than regular faculty. We don't have personal days. We have any number of lack of parity, for a better word to say that. We show up at the Board of Trustees meetings. I think many of you know me or other people from that. How does our life get better by changing the executive board? Like, what do you say to me after 7 really long, really trying years of not having any equality whatsoever, second-class citizenship? What do you have to say to us? Faren, maybe Faren, could you address that?
Start with Faren if any of you want to contribute.
All right. When I said you're new, I meant that you're new in the sense of...
No, and I understand that, but I don't know if everybody understands that. So.
Lynn has had a long and very, very difficult journey. This administration does not want to treat, and I really would rather call you faculty because you're teaching faculty.
Oh, but we'll take faculty, right, ladies?
But they're teaching faculty, but they call them linked instructors. They want to create yet another
lecturers.
I'm sorry, lecturers. They want to have like a different structure for them. I oppose that. I'm just totally opposed that. What can I tell you? If I would and I will, fight. And again, I can't tell you the details of this. I can only tell you that I have been a very strong voice against this two-class, two-tiered kind of citizenship that you've been subjected to. I find it, for myself, I find it highly offensive. As a unionist, it's totally unacceptable, and I think that's something that I would be willing and would continue to fight for. Again, how would we do it? We're going to have to do more than just you go to the board. Obviously, we're going to have to strategize and do other things.
Thank you. And I'd like to just follow up, but it's not really a question, really, really quickly. In case you think this doesn't affect you, if you start to open new lines for us, what's going to happen to every new hire that comes after us? So this is about you as well.
Actually, I want to answer this concern because when I was a TA, at some point in the contract, they created a new position. Some of you may remember, it is still in the contract. It is called laboratory technician. And it was a way to put a new position with less benefit, less everything, and have a two-tier between the TA and the lab technician. And I see the link instructor with the lecturer position as an equivalent. Fortunately, the department overall, there is a few exceptions because I know there is a few lab technicians, but overwhelmingly, the department chose to request TA line and not lab technician line. So the college was hoping that as TA retired, the department would replace them with lab technician, but most departments, unfortunately a few did hire TA. So, I see this as a similar problem, and the way to solve it would be to have a conversion, like, the TA that became technologist would be for the Link, whatever your title is, to become an instructor. That's the way I see this solved, but, I don't know how it's going to be done, but that's the way that the road should go.
And I think that what you're mentioning is, and I think this is a very big problem in this college. I always hear these group of people got this, and that group of people get that, and they do more, and they do less. This is what I'm saying. We can't do this. We all rise or we fall together. We can't throw each other under the bus. We just cannot do that. There's lots of discussions about, who should be sacrificed. Well, my attitude is nobody should be sacrificed, because if I sacrifice you now, other people are coming down the road. Once you start going down that road, it's a slippery slope, and we just can't do that.
Thank you, Faren.
I just have a follow-up that you cannot internationalize a campus and treat the individuals who are teaching those very important courses that are
You present yourself first, let us know. Let everyone know who you are.
All right, so my question is, I'm the person who asked for the forum, Lawrence Davian from the English department, and I want to thank Miguel for stepping out and doing this, because this should have been done by the union. And I really do thank you for doing that. And my question is, to Faren, and basically Faren, what is happening right now, in your opinion, one single thing that you would do differently? Because I think that's what people are asking in my department. What's going to change for us? And I'll play the step down rep. But what's going to change for us? How are our lives going to be better off? What's going to happen to us in the next 0 to 3 years? If you could just address one thing that you feel is very important, what would that be?
Okay. The thing, I think, other than the contract, obviously, which is ongoing, and I don't know if we're going to have a contract by the end of the semester. But I think that generally going forward for all of us, I think that what we have to begin to do is, as a union, as us, is to begin to realize, and for the executive committee to open itself up and say, you know what, there's 5 of us. We just can't sit here in this building on the what is it, 3rd floor? Is that where I'm going on? The 3rd floor of the F building. I find it very architecturally disorienting in that place. And just sit there and chat amongst ourselves, because that is a very unproductive thing. What I would want to do is, I want to call on people. I want to do all those things I mentioned. I want us to move into PR. I want us to have a real active political action committee. And I want people to begin to really engage with that. I can't go and see everybody on my own, and I shouldn't. I want to sometimes be able to call on people and say, come see this legislator with me. Because I know this guy from the Assembly, for example, he went here. He went to criminal justice. He has a degree from criminal justice. Maybe ask Bob or somebody else from that department to go. What I'm really saying is what we really need to do, and I think what would be very different, is that I would be very, very informative. I think we need to be informed a lot more. If you feel alienated, if you don't feel informed, if you feel like, it's like pulling teeth to get any information. Oh, I'll get back to you later. Or here's a good example. I was sitting at this NICET conference in February over our break. It was the Higher Education Conference. Here it is, that you've never seen. Here it is, the little document that came out. It was a very important council for us. I was there all by myself. Everybody else had a delegation with them, all the 30 community colleges, the UUP, which represents the four-year schools, PSC, which represents community. They all had a bunch of people with them. I was there all by myself. And we discussed all these policies and what we're going to do and how we're going to go forward. Why don't you know about any of this? You know? I mean, we wrote a blog about it. Richard and I spent a huge amount of time sitting there. It's so easy to really tell you what I would do differently, because the first thing I would do differently is just communicate. And communicate very, very openly. Why don't you all know that with mediation, Herb only gives us 3 sessions? Why shouldn't you know that? This is not a secret. It's on their website. You know, so what I'm saying is the first thing I would do, my first step, would be to be engaged people, really be able to engage people, ask you to do things, and really, really start that conversation, that dialogue. And my attitude is, if you don't answer me and I want you to help, I'll come and see you. I will come and see people. I want to be able to sit individually with chairs. I want to have more department meetings where we sit. And the other thing that I would really want to do, and I know you sat on the executive board, the executive board has become like, you know, you just come and you sit and you listen to somebody telling you what they want to tell you for an hour and 15 minutes. That's not what the executive board should be doing. The executive board should be advising, should be consulted. We need the input from the executive board, and the executive board should be working with the executive committee to really, really put things in gears. In other words, here we are, here you all are resources. We're all resources, and I would start to use that resource. And once we start to do that, we will start to see change in this college. We will start to get ahead of the curve.
Did you want to reply to that, Jake?
I'd also like to respond briefly to that question. I'm going to give you 2 concrete ideas that, should I be elected, and I hope I will, that I would like to bring to the NCCFT leadership. Before I do, I want to preface this with, I understand that sometimes personal situations arise that cannot be discussed. I also understand that negotiations are due by law a certain amount of privacy. But I'd like to see the minutes of the sessions of the executive leadership or of the leadership of the NCCFT made public. And I'd also like you to be informed of how each of your representatives votes.
Thank you, Jason. Go ahead.
Michael Anselone from English. Where there is no vision, the people perish. So I'm going to give everybody, like we used to say in the union office, another bite at the apple, okay? And ask the vision question. Some of you have addressed it already, but I want to see if you have more to say. Some of you didn't really say that much about it. So I would like to hear from each of you about what your vision for the future of our union is now, moving forward, and for you to say explicitly what you will do in proactive ways. And again, it's a little redundant. Moving forward, bearing in mind that contracts need to get done in a timely fashion. I think it's unprecedented, as far as I know, that we've gone this long without. Thank you for your time. Good luck to all of you, and thank you for having the forum, which is a democratic process.
So, Faren, do you feel like you
You want me to talk again? Okay. I can talk.
Pick something else.
take a couple minutes to answer?
Yeah, I can talk. So here's my vision for the union. Other than, to use the buzzword, obviously proactive, you want to know what that really entails. Well, what it entails what I started to talk about when I was standing up there. This college is, in order to maintain its autonomy, in order to maintain the mission that it was envisioned for. If you look at I know you don't want to read the education laws or the regulations, but I have. And what it gives us is a lot of autonomy, a lot of home rule. Because community colleges are designed very differently than even four-year colleges. We're actually designed to meet the needs of our community. And one of the things that we have to do is to maintain that. Because if we don't do that, we don't respond to our students. So we have to maintain shared governance. We have a lot of challenges. And my vision is that we have a union that really starts to move ahead of saying, oh, okay, performance-based funding is now on our doorstep. It's horrible. oh, woe is us, what do? We're going to lose all this funding. Well, what I envision the union doing is actually understanding the challenges that are out there and getting ahead of them before they smack us in the face. Performance-based funding, for example, is one of those issues. And in fact, I had a meeting with the deans. I brought my little exhibits with me. Do you remember this little document that Maria came up with, right? This tells us why our funding, why she's not going to go get funding for us, how we don't have retention. All right, the union got very nervous about this document, and seemingly so, because, it's saying, why we're doing so poorly. I said, why don't we, send an email to Dean Kevlin, who I know produced this. Why don't we sit with them and talk with them about these stats? Because, I'm not a statistician, but I know that stats are, people play with them, right? And so we did. We had, Dean arranged a meeting, and it was a 2-hour meeting about 2 Wednesdays ago. He invited all the union officers. I was the only one that went. Jim Hoyt did come in 10 minutes before the meeting was over. And we sat and we spoke for 2 hours. So the first thing I did was I talked to Dean about where these stats came from. But I think the most important thing that came out of this was I basically got them to discuss how do we use this information differently. Because one of it talks about persistence of our students, the percentage of our students who persist. One stat talked about the students that transfer, the percentage, and one talked about graduation. When you look at those 3 things separately, we look horrible. But if you put them together, we look wonderful. So what I said to Dean is, can't we put these together? And Dean, who is a very bright man, really understands this stuff. Yes, he goes, why can't we? And he started talking about how it's a global perspective. And then I said to the deans, why do we have to present this to the legislature, anybody differently? Why can't we all go and say, here's what a community college does, and here's our 3 goals: persistence, graduation, and transfer. Why can't we sell ourselves like that? And the dean said to me, oh, maybe we could. Well, this is pretty much what I did with this meeting. And when I left, Dean Fernandez, who really has never usually been overly friendly to me, thanked me and shook my hand. I almost fell through the floor. But that was a good thing, right? Because what I'm saying is that my vision for the college is to move us forward in these very proactive ways. I can give you chapter and verse, I've already told you about PR, I told you about politics, but here's something we could do internally. So what I'm really saying, my vision is to find all of those very creative ways, proactive ways. Why are we going to wait until they use these stats in a bad way against us? Why can't the union go and say, let's talk about it and let's think about how differently we can do that. We can do that. It's not a hard thing to do. These are the things that we can do. But you have to have a union that's willing to actually pay attention to all of these issues. You've got to read everything that's going on in the state with NYSIC, with SUNY. You have to be willing to do all of that stuff. And if you do all of that, then the next step is to say, not to just simply wait and go, oh, woe is us. You have to just say, okay, how do I get ahead of that? How do I tweak that performance-based funding? Yeah, I'm not going to get rid of it, but how do I make it be responsive to what we do? This is my vision for the union. This is what I think we need to be doing.
Thank you. Go down the line.
Okay, so I think in terms of the question was about the vision for what the union should be doing for the college. One of the things I think is that we should be calling more regularly on the faculty to be members of union committee. I mean, we do have once in a while an email to say, can you join a committee? But then, there's like months or years that goes by before another email is joined, and somebody just, is joining my committee and say, how do I join your committee? I said, well, you send an email to Audrey and she'll put you on my committee. By the way, I'm the chair of the benefit committee. But, for example, the PAC committee, just join the PAC committee, but not everybody knows that they can join the PAC committee. Not everybody knows that they can join any committee. People feel that the Carlino Scholarship Committee, it seems like, like a secret appointment for the Carlino Scholarship Committee. So I think I would make all the union committee more open
And also, I would make more member of the committee more responsible for whatever they can do. Just a little example for the PAC. I'm a member of the PAC committee. And last year, the member of the PAC committee got an email because Dawn could not go to a legislative meeting. And she said, who can go? I really can't go, something came up. So I was free, I went. But this is the only time that I got a letter, an email asking a member of the committee, can they go to a legislative meeting? What?
We need to go as teams.
Yes, but the point is that this was, I've been a member of the committee. I got an email about going to visit the legislator once. So maybe, I know that, most of us don't have always the time. It just happened I was free that day. But if you have a big committee with a lot of members, you can send more people when those meetings takes place.
I think we need a plan. I think we need to figure out what it is we want to do, and then we have to work together to not only adopt the plan and figure out what we're going to do, but to have everybody involved in that plan. If we are fighting among ourselves, we can't be effective. It's a good idea to have a union fighting among itself, and then the administration doesn't have to worry about what's going on outside of that. So I think that we need to work together on a plan that's strong, that represents everyone, and really use things that, are timely, meaning social media, public relations. It's not to the advantage of the Board of Trustees or the politicians to have the college in the mess that it's in. We're always the shining star of the county, and I think that we need to work to go back there, and we need to work together to do that.
Yes. It's not about my personal vision. It's about our vision. And I think as a collective team, we have to, we know we want a strong contract. We know we need shared governance here. But one thing that has been resonated through many people's discussions today is open two-way communication. If we call it Union Web 2.0, to have people's voice be heard and respond to those voices, so that it's not about me, it's about doing the best thing for us.
Yeah, can I just ask a comment on that?
Well, let's let them go through the panel first.
I'm okay with the comment. I'd love to hear it. Is it okay?
You want to?
She's responding just to Donna's statement.
Yeah, I'm just responding to that thing. I just want to bring up something that as a rep I asked for. I asked for clarification on the blog, because the very nature of a blog is that you respond back. And I was told, let's change the name of it then. Okay. So that tells me something. That tells me that there's shut communication going on. You don't have a blog, you put out a blog, people respond to a blog. That's the nature of it. There is a lack of, and I think this is what we need back, a lack of credibility in the faculty to respond as equals. That's what we need. And I think what you're describing is perfect in terms of an open communication, a forum where we can. If you put out a blog, the answer isn't change the name of it. The answer is open up the blog so people can comment. It makes absolutely no sense.
Well, a lot of people said things that I was thinking of when I was last. But first off, I want to keep it short. Let me just let everybody know I'm running as an individual. This is not a slate of candidates, even though some candidates are not here. We're not a slate together. I agree with Donna that it is our vision. But speaking for myself, one of the things that I would like to bring to the NCCFT leadership is just an awareness and a reawakening to the idea that although our contract negotiations come once every 5 years or so, that we're in a constant state of having to protect our contracts, which inevitably leads towards better contracts, and also that we're in a constant state of having to do the most important thing I think of in terms of negotiations, and that is build the faculty value, the perceived value with students, with their parents, with the community, with politicians, elected officials, and with our Board of Trustees. Thanks.
Thank you. Introduce yourself.
Well, before I introduce myself, I have a question for Lynn.
I'm not a confrontational person, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I am a technical assistant, so your position is very important to me. But do you know who I am?
Well, I don't know everybody.
Okay,
I
and
know
that's
your
fine,
face.
and I get that.
Yeah. I think I need to know
Okay.
everybody. And I think
Because
we need to get together.
I have the special events committee, so if you're eating or drinking something on campus, I will. Response because I try to do my best.
But let me say, Rose works very hard.
Very hard. Do you know how heavy water is?
Rose is wondering. I appreciate that.
You're not very familiar to me at all. So I don't see you very much at these things. And if you want my vote, I just wonder, like, in this time and all these things and all these things that are important, like, how do you feel that you're qualified to do those things? Because I don't know what your background experience in union functions, attending, learning from the functions.
Well, I'm very involved in different activities on campus. I'm in the Firehouse Plaza Art Gallery, and I'm working interdisciplinary with other departments, bringing them into the gallery. But I think that you're making a very valid point about why this forum was important, because when I'm busy doing my job, I'm not always able to get out, to go to parties, to do those kinds of things. But I think that part of my job is reaching out. So, by the same token, I would like to encourage you to speak to me as well. And that's why I think it's very important that we get together as TAs and professional faculty and classroom faculty and know each other and respond to one another. I feel the same way that you feel. I often feel isolated. My job is a different kind of job than the classroom faculty where I have to be in the gallery.
Can you make the time to be involved in the union functions? Because I believe you have to be in the office quite a bit. Can you get away from what you do?
Sure.
Coverage?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel that commitment. I wouldn't be running. And I need your support, and I need your help. And I need to be able to count on people and to look at you and say, this is what I'm concerned about. What are you concerned about? I think that's what's missing right now, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. And what's your name? Rose who?
And everybody knows.
Rose what? Thank you. Okay.
I know it's that time. I need some more communications. I'm just going to jump in. I want to just take it in a different direction in terms of advocacy, because that's a very important concern for me, being that at the beginning of our dialogue, you said that we're all a part of the union. So my question to the panel group here is, how will you ensure that all of the members of the union will receive fair and equal representation?
It honestly should be, for me, it's a given. It should be. I mean, this is to me. It should be. Right. To me, it's actually sad that we have to answer this question, because it should be a given. If you're president of the union, or even if you're whatever position you're in, you're representing everybody. I think that because people, as I said, do not feel very connected, and they feel that the union has become a little bit insular, a little bit almost cliquish. One of the things that I actually wanted to do, and I actually did start to do it for a little bit when I was first elected as secretary, was I wanted the union to actually sort of divide up during the month and go and visit people's departments. I think it was particularly important with the PFU and the non-classroom faculty, because I know that they don't always have the same kind of breaks that the teaching faculty do. And I did do it a couple of times, and then that was sort of stopped, because I tried to go to 30 departments all on my own. But this would be something that I would want to do. I think it's really, really important that, the union executive committee, they go to a lot of meetings. So you go to active affairs, you go to chairs, but when you sit with the chairs in the chairs meeting, the chairs are having their meeting, and then you say a couple of things, and you wave them adios, and then that's it. Instead, I think that the union needs to take time, for example, to go to different departments, to speak to departments separately, during department meetings, divide up. Also, to take time, you gotta, take some time, make an appointment with the chair, or talk to the chairs. Because one of the things that I've been doing in trying to talk to people about what I want to do and I can't talk to everybody because there's 688 of you, and we've only had really 3 days, and there's only one of me. And I still teach and all the other things that I do. One of the things I've been trying to do is I've been listening to different chairs and different people tell me. And when I listen to people, I say, you know, if the union generally understood what everybody was doing, we could be a lot more responsive. And I think it's very, very important that when people want to contact the union, that they can contact us easily, and they feel comfortable. I think that personal contact is something that's important. I think it's important, for example, that if somebody comes up to me, and I think any of you have ever done it, I don't ever say to you, oh, you got to call the union. I was told that's the way it was supposed to be done. I've never done it. I ignore it. Because some people just want to tell you what they've got to tell you. They run away. They got other things to do. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to take that message back. I think we have to be willing to do things like that.
Thank you, Jason. Did you want to talk?
Yeah, I'd just like to go a little step further than that. In addition to what was just said, there are many times when the union is very clear on the issues. And I'm thinking back in particular to the issues that were involved with the search committee for the new president. There were faculty members that rose up in the Board of Trustee meetings and expressed serious concerns. But yet, the NCCFT leadership was silent on those issues. I think that the NCC leadership needs to get more involved with the issues that are obvious on campus. We have some very serious issues that need to be dealt with, and they should do so in a transparent manner. Mainly, you should know how your representatives are responding to those issues in their meetings and in their votes.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Rick Santos from the English department. I guess I want to have a question, a few questions to Faren, and then open up for the others. I don't think this is true, but I have heard all around a perception that there is. The union, there's the board candidates that have been serving us for 50 plus years, and then the people who are sort of applying for the position now. And I see that you are, and also Caroline, who's not here now, Debbie, who are the union. So could you speak a little bit of like the work you have already been doing as part of this union right now, this board right now, what you have been contributing, so it doesn't go into, oh, that's the union, and now this is the new candidate. And on that matter, to see that there's not a split, there's a continuous working in progress. And on that matter, and I think Jason started speaking to that sense that each candidate is applying solo. So you, all of you, may be elected solo here. How are you going to work with the other who are there?
Thank you. Faren, you want to do a review or? Donna,
I have a class. That's my priority. So thank you very much, everyone.
We have been joined by Frisenda and Falconetti. So we're just going to give them an opportunity to address everybody since they weren't here before. So I guess we can start with, we'll just have Frank address the membership.
Hi, I'm Frank Frisenda. I'm Vice President for Classroom Faculty, and thought to ask you, to support my candidacy. Nobody's running against me. I would appreciate your vote anyway. I don't know the format of this program. Unfortunately, I was at the Academic Senate, and I am the Senate representative, so I don't know what has been discussed here, what hasn't been discussed here. But I want you to know that in my capacity as Vice President, I take care of everything that I have to take care of. Okay. I volunteer, all right, to do many of the jobs that the NCCFT Executive Committee is charged to do in general. I really enjoy being on the Executive Committee of the NCCFT. I've been involved in the union since I first got here. I became department rep from the engineering department about 6 months after I arrived here in 1985. I've been chair of political action, I've been chair of the crisis committee. I've been treasurer of the NCCFT, now vice president of classroom faculty of the NCCFT. I've been an adjunct TA, I've been an adjunct classroom faculty member, I've been full-time TA, full-time non-classroom with academic rank. I'm a classroom faculty member. I've seen this campus from so many different angles. I'm the AFT and NICA delegate, and I have been for many, many years. I have a deep commitment not only to this college, but I have a deep commitment to NICA, our parent organization, and the American Federation, the parent organization of that organization, as witnessed by an award that I got, New York State United Teachers Higher Ed Member of the Year 2 years ago, and I was very honored to get that. I believe in the ideals of NICA. I believe in the ideals of unionism. I don't know how many of you in this room have contacted me. I have friends that have contacted me, but you know, if you have contacted me, it's usually because you have a problem, and I'm going to be confident now to say I know that I solved your problem, because that's what I do. Okay? I'm here to answer any questions, and thank you.
I guess we'll open it back up to the questions. Did anybody have any other questions for any of the candidates? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Joel Wilson from History. Faren, I know you and I know some of your ideas, but obviously the most pressing issue is the contract. But having now been on the CCC my first year, there's a lot of other issues that are facing this college. So for everybody, Faren included, what do you think the most important one is, and what do we do? Where do you go? What do you address?
I think that the student initiatives are extremely pressing for us. I think there's been a lot of misconceptions about what the union's position sometimes has been on the student initiatives, and Frank and I have worked a lot on the student initiatives together. The student initiatives are, I think, a serious threat to us. Well, first of all, they change every day, right? They're morphing, with what they're requiring. But I think that if you look at the student initiatives generally, what you're seeing really is if they're going to affect the way that they seem to be envisioned, is really the end of shared governance. Because let's face it, what is shared governance on this campus? A lot of it has to do with our degrees, our programs, our curriculum, our content, all of these things. Crafting degrees, crafting education that serves this community, that serves our community. That's the law. Those are the regulations, and that's what we're charged with doing. What the SUNY initiatives are doing, essentially, seems to me, is to take that power, those rights away from us. So whether you're interested in 64 or 66 credits or changing your degrees, I don't think that's really, from my perspective, that's not the union's job to tell you what to teach, how to teach, what your degrees are, what's required. My concern as a union officer, as part of the union, would really be to keep SUNY's hands off of our degrees, to keep SUNY from taking over our ability to craft our program. So what I'm looking at is process to a large extent. So I see that as one of the very pressing things. I see performance-based funding, which I mentioned earlier, as an extremely pressing issue as well. I think that we have to start to understand what's going to be involved in, and then I think we're going to have to start to work, hopefully with the administration here, but if not, really making concerted efforts to go to our state legislators where this is going to be, and make sure that when it comes down the pipe, that it doesn't damage us. When I was at the NICA Higher Ed Lobbying Day a couple of weeks ago, in addition to talking to them about funding, I talked to them about performance-based funding and some of these issues. Many of them have a general familiarity with it, but not a great familiarity with it. But a lot of them are really strong supporters of this college, because many of them, as I mentioned earlier, actually actually graduated from this college. And they said, why don't you all visit us more when we're down here? So these are things that I think that we need to get ahead of. Otherwise, we're going to be, it's like a wave washing over you. And I think that this is something, these are things that we need to get ahead of. So those are the things that I see as very, very pressing in order for us to keep control of our curriculum. Otherwise, you can have a CWCC and you have an academic senate and shared governance, but what are you acting on, essentially, for that? I mean, what's the curriculum committee going to be doing? So my perspective is we need to make sure that SUNY does not overwhelm us. There's a reason why we have our own board, and we're not under that SUNY Board of Trustees.
Yeah, I wanted to answer the question from a union point of view. I think it's very important that the union keep the faculty governance intact, because I think it makes it harder for the administration to impose changes on the faculty if we have a very strong faculty governance, if that's in the contract. The other thing that I wanted to say is that CUNY has had the same problem for early years in SUNY. One of my friends is a professor at Queen's College, and maybe 4 years ago he asked me some information about how major class. And I said, why do you need this? He told me, well, it's because, I can't remember, I think it's called CUNY Pathway.
Pathways.
Yeah. And they were trying to work it out. And I think, the heads, they're a little bit farther along than SUNY in the process. And I think it would be good for our union to join with the CUNY union, because they've been dealing with it for longer than we have been dealing with it.
I think that's very important, self-governance and academic freedom. I said, we saw what happened when ASTRAC tried to come in and control us. To be able to have control over the curriculum and over our own fate is very important. To give that up would be a major problem on this campus.
I'm sorry, I don't know the process. Was that question, you said anybody? Okay. Look, there's a narrative in the United States that has trickled down to every aspect of every municipality in every corner that is anti-public education, anti-public worker. For our sake, it's anti-higher education, anti-faculty, anti-full-time faculty, et cetera, okay? And this is not something new, all right? This is something that has been gaining steam, okay? We've seen it in Wisconsin, we've seen it in Ohio, we've seen it in Minnesota, we've seen it in these states, okay? Now, NYSET, our parent organization, has really been on top of this, where a lot of the NYSET officers took leaves of absence from NYSET and went to these states to campaign very, very hard, again, with the Governor Walker's recall election, and other initiatives that took that. We were successful in Ohio, we were successful, I say we as members of NYSET, and in Minnesota, okay, not so much in Wisconsin, but that, he's up, Walker's up for re-election again. But that's the rest of the country. Here in New York, right? New York is a very unionized state, right? It's very different than most of the other country, not a right-to-work state in any way, shape, or form, right? So we, and while the narrative, okay, this anti-higher ed, anti-public worker, anti-union is alive and well and isn't going away, we are very, very aware of it, okay? And as an organization, and I say an organization is nice because I'm hearing this discussion about National Community College, okay? And it's a much, much bigger discussion, okay, that we have to have about this, and we are having about this, because it becomes a trickle-down imposition on us. We don't work in a vacuum, all right? It's not this little myopia called Nassau Community College. I mean, we're part of a big 64-campus system in New York, and believe it or not, we are the leaders in these SUNY initiatives, okay? We have been out front, and I mean we, the NCCFT, the Academic Senate, Kimberly Reiser, I give her enormous amounts of credit, okay, on the Faculty Council of Community Colleges. We have been out front on these issues, okay, and we, Nassau Community College, okay, we were able, all right, to convince NICET, by convincing the other community colleges, all right, to put forth a resolution opposing the de facto core curriculum, okay? And that's coming up in 3 weeks from now. You know, it's funny because last year, when I tried to bring it up at the Academic Senate and all hell broke out about that, a comment was made that the NICET de facto core curriculum wasn't being voted on until April, and it'll be moot by then, you know. Right, it's in 3 weeks, all right, it's hardly moot, all right. So, you know, there's a process that things, you know, that you have to abide by. You can't just say, this is what I want to do, and it gets done, all right. So we, Nassau Community College, we have really led the way through the Academic Senate, through the governance process, and Kimberly Reiser has done the lion's share of that, all right. And the NCCFT, along with the Suffolk Community College Faculty Association, has really led the way with NICET, that NICET now has put together a task force through the Higher Ed Policy Council, all right, where we are now putting together a bunch of talking points because the other community colleges, especially in the rural areas, don't have the resources we have. And we have the resources here. We have a lot of faculty. We have our shared governance is in our contract. Even Suffolk Community College, which is the next biggest. Wow. Okay.
The NICET Higher Education Policy Council that Frank is referring to, that was something I attended in February. And one of the things that I suggested that we're going to move forward with is to change up that NICET, fall community college conference. So that what we're going to do is we're really going to do a track that's on all of these SUNY initiatives. And in addition to just simply chattering, we're actually going to be breaking out and coming up with hopefully some action plans about what to do. There was a lot of information that came out of that council meeting that I went to, and it should have been shared already. Unfortunately, the union has not shared that information with all of you so far. And that's one of the things that I've been talking about. I went to that conference a month ago, over a month ago.
Is there a back and forth here?
No, that's not. I don't want to
Just that's our time, and that's it.
Okay, go ahead. Well, that's
I don't know. Again, I apologize for me. These issues, when you ask a question like that, okay, these can't be answered in sound bites. I'm not saying that sound bites are being used, right? But I know we have a limited amount of time to answer these questions. But I assure you, all right, that the answer to these questions are very complicated, all right, and require an awful lot of communication, all right? I can't put it in writing, all right? I cannot put it in writing, all right? But I can certainly sit here and discuss, just like everything I just said to you, all right? I couldn't put it in writing, all right? And maybe if somebody here is a better writer and they can do it, fine, okay? But I can communicate it to you what I'm doing. We've been working on this here. I've been in the NCCFT Executive Committee now for 5 years. 2 years as treasurer, 3 years as vice president, okay? I can't put in writing everything I've done in the last 5 years, all right, with my work with SUNY, with my work with NICET, with my work against all these different initiatives, all right? And it doesn't work in a soundbite, all right? And unfortunately, because we don't have time, apparently all we can do is speak in sound bites, all right? But I would be willing to talk to any one of you, anytime. Frank.Frisenda at ncc.edu, all right? And I'll give you my cell phone. We can get together and I'll talk to you about anything you want to talk about over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine.
Yeah, I just one concern. I've gotten involved with the SUNY seamless transfer stuff. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You can go and then I'll...
Oh, okay. SUNY is planning to do a process a lot quicker than what you explained NYSET's doing. So I guess what I'd like to know, we pay a lot of money to NYSET. I'd like to know, certainly with the K through 12, the Common Core, this follows along the same track. There's a revolt going on in the state. NYSET has a prime opportunity to just bring this along with the Common Core, that they're trying to do the same thing with our public institutions in the state. But frankly, this is the first time I've heard what NYSET's actually doing. I didn't know that NYSET was actually had committees and they're discussing it and stuff like that. But to me, it's a little bit late, and it still sounds a little to me. Okay, Frank? I appreciate all the work you've done, and I hope my comment doesn't belittle that, because it's not intended to do.
Is there a question?
My question is, why is NYSET, since we are the leaders, I have to agree with you with that, and it's really what our union has been here, that why we're the leaders. Why isn't more pressure put on NYSET to be a leader as well? Because SUNY's making the decisions in months, not in years.
Understand that NYSET is not a service organization where they have a bunch of operators, waiting to take your call and fix your problems, okay? It's a much more complicated organization than that. Common Core, when it went out to the K-12 people, all right, it went out evenly, all right, across the board to all the K-12 people, all right, and every single school district, all right, whether you were in New York City or out in rural America or Long Island, every K-12, okay, got the same marching orders with Common Core, with mandatory testing, and teacher evaluations. They had a united front, all right, and it was through that united grassroots effort, okay, that they were able to put together a narrative, okay, that gave NYSET, okay, the wherewithal, right, to be able to take that, all right, and move forward through the legislative agenda, okay, through the courts, through whatever political mechanisms they have, all right. When it comes to this issue, okay, with the SUNY issue, all right, we are a lot more diversified. There were 64 different campuses, all right? There were the 4-year campuses, there were the 2-year campuses, there are the SUNY flagship campuses, there were the SUNY colleges, okay? And every one of them has their own agenda, and every campus has established through their own shared governance, their own unique programs, their own unique agendas, okay? So NYSET, when we go to the, what we call the ED39 meeting, with the Higher Ed Policy Council meeting, when you go there, all these different agendas, you got people that are already at 60 credits, you got people that are at 64 credits, you got people that are doing this, doing that, all right? So there's no uniform, who's NYSET going to get their marching orders from? What NYSET has indicated to us in no uncertain terms, okay, is that if we at National Community College, through our shared governance, all right, we got this commitment from NYSET that if through our shared governance process that is disapproved, and therefore we can show harm, all right, and that disapproval, that NYSET will defend us any way that is appropriately, whatever they consider appropriate, and we can discuss that when it happens, right? It's our academic senate that's been reluctant, okay? And I think the big thing was ask for blanket waivers from those whole SUNY singles, right? Well, as to any waiver, okay? None of that has happened yet, okay? So it's not like NYSET won't do it, all right? The higher ed contingency of NYSET is not like the K-12 people.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm from the non-classroom faculty, and I think
what department?
Distance education. since I've been here for 5 years, but I think 2 weeks ago I found out that I have a PFU rep for our union. So my question to Faren, you are part of the union right now. How would you represent PFU differently than right now? And for you as well?
Meaning as well, I'm not running to be the
yes, but
vice president. How would I? Well, as I mentioned before, I think that one of the very difficult issues with PFU is that you're scattered across the campus, and you tend to be behind a lot of closed doors. So one of the things that I did when I first became secretary was I had this meeting with the PFU, and I asked to meet with them.
Yeah, so they were at the meeting.
So I could see you all together. This is, I think, something that we actually need to do a lot more with the PFU. I think it's important for the president of the union, I think the entire executive committee, to actually get to know exactly every little thing that the PFU does. That there are people in distance ed, there are people in many different, because you're professional, you do many different professional activities. And I think for me it would be important to meet with the PFU a lot more personally, in order for you to feel a lot more engaged, because I understand that you don't have the time, the club hour, you don't get all of that. So I think that what we have to do is to have more of a consideration in that. And if you can't come to us, then we have to come to you. And so that's what I would want to do.
Well, the first thing that I would do is I'm here, okay? I want to be here because I want to be involved. I don't get that connection now, and I think that has to change. I certainly don't know everyone, obviously, I know Rose now. But I think that what's important is that changes, and that we have some sense of cohesiveness between us. And that's the reason that I'm running, is because I don't feel like I have any representation. We need real representation for our particular job description. Our time constraints are different. But yet we are, in many cases, very active in our own departments. I know in the art department, a lab can't run without the TAs. So, I think that what has to change is that we have to have a voice. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm running. And that's what I hope would be different.
Other questions? Could I respond or just to repeat?
Please do. Yes, please do.
Go ahead.
Okay. The NCCFT Executive Committee, everybody is elected at large, okay? The non-classroom faculty don't vote for the non-classroom vice president exclusively, and the classroom faculty don't vote for the classroom vice president exclusively. Every position is voted for at large. And everybody on the executive committee has an obligation to every single member within the bargaining unit, regardless of your title, position, location, anything like that, okay? I believe that we can always do a better job. I believe that, but sometimes what gets lost in the noise of the day, okay, usually means that we only hear the problems, okay? We only hear when somebody has a crisis, and then we know that crisis is occurring. I think, and I don't know how to get the message across to the non-classroom people, whether you're in the PFU or in the academic departments, but through your professional, if you were to ask your professional advisory committee, okay, and I think Myrna is the chair of that committee, I think that, and I'm not going to speak for Myrna, okay? You could ask Myrna, all right, if she believes that the executive committee of the NCCFT is responsive to the needs of the PFU when she brings issues up to us, okay?
I think that what needs to happen is that rather than reacting to something going wrong, that we have an open place to go and say, this could possibly be an issue that needs to be addressed, so that there's a sense that we don't have to always be putting out the fire. And I know for me, I would not be running if I didn't think that I could do a better job than what's being done now.
Yeah, I can give you a simple example. There was, with this union, there was emails going back and forth that the contribution to the health benefits that the college can impose was pushed back to May 1st. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that meant. And then I had to ask the union what that meant.
And that's fine, we can answer it.
Yeah.
The way the governance structure, okay, the Constitution is written, right, is we have a board, executive, with the executive committee, we have an executive board that represents all the different departments. Diane Garino is the BFU representative, okay? And if Diane Garino, one of her responsibilities and obligations to the BFU will be to communicate, right, to her constituency those things that we explain at executive board meeting. I mean, there's 31 with the BFU. There's 31 different groups, okay, and everybody has their own unique locations and situations and schedules and demographics, okay, and we really put that responsibility on that. And if they don't do it, just call us and we'll ask.
Yeah, that's what I did. So I had to ask the NCCFT. Then I was told that Diane